Morning, Rhinelander. Woo! I guess I don't need to shout. There's not a. Please wait till the end for the booing. So don't. Everyone enjoying and learning something at the Convergence? Yes. Yeah. So far been a worthwhile endeavor. It takes a lot of time and effort to put on these events, so I hope that you guys can appreciate Drew and the team that puts this stuff together. That I've been at a lot of these different things, and the people that put these on, it takes a large part of their not just day or week, but it's something that is a year-round effort for them to be coordinating with all the different people to make this stuff happen. So, Drew?
It's a huge team, great people.
Yeah.
Well, this is seeing all this happen in real time makes it worth every second. So.
That's why, my wife and I, we're volunteers. We're perennial volunteers for any type of this thing. So it's something that we're passionate about. I'm glad you're passionate about, and I hope you guys are passionate about not just doing for yourself, but doing for others. And when you see the opportunity where someone's like, hey, I'd like to do this or do that, and it's something that you're actually doing, and you're like, hey, I can give you some, like raspberry. I forgot your rhubarb plants.
That's all good, man. I know where you live.
Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry.
Just in time. And you are?
Eileen.
Eileen. And where's Eileen from?
Shawno.
Shawno. All right.
Thank you.
Do you currently hobby farm?
No, I just have my property that's been has lots of Roundup and Scott's Weed and Feed many years.
And I spent hours every spring reading seed catalogs, looking to match and maximize my plant selection for the 4-H would always have, I don't know if any of you were in 4-H, that they would have all these different classes. You could enter this, and I was always trying to figure out how to get in as many different classes as possible, because at that time they were paying $1 blue ribbon, and I wanted to enter and win that blue ribbon in every single one of them. The Bill Molson quote about fearing anger, that to make change, to be involved in community, there needs to be some sort of motivation, and things that really bug you can be the things that motivate you to make the change. That right now people are worried about food security and quality food and chemicals, that they're using. So permaculture is one of the places where people are kind of gravitating to. And low input land management really speaks to me, because I'll get into this later, but I'm actually a lazy person. I don't want to work more than 8 hours a day on my farm. If I'm working more than 8 hours a day on my farm, it's not really a sustainable model. It's not something scalable. It's not something that's easily to duplicate for other people. If you're out there working 16 hours a day, it's like, man, that eventually you're going to wear out, and there's very few people that can follow you down that road. 2001 we're married. 2003 we build out on the property. 2011 her grandmother dies. We get access. Our name is finally on the property. 2012 I have it out with her father. I wrote him a poem, "I will not grow corn," because he wouldn't get it. So people want to know how I got into rhubarb and all that. So that's another long story about I failed at doing just about everything else. So at 2011, we're almost 10 years into this, and we did a reassessment. We call it version 2.0. This is version 2.0. And I said, all right, let's take the things that were successful and let's put them all together in one bed.
How did you plant the rhubarb? Was it from seed or from cuttings?
From divisions.
Divisions.
So it was another thing where you start with one plant, it turns into two.
Yeah.
Compounding interest. 2 turns into 4.
Yeah.
4 turns into 8. 20 years later, you got 1,000 rhubarb plants, and it's one of those things where compounding interest really does add up, and it's true in farming. I grew my hair out for this event, but
Well, and there are lots of people that attach political things to permaculture, but permaculture is not necessarily about politics. It's a design science, right? And so that's an awesome conversation that I think can be had too. But I always tell people permaculture is just a word to try and understand what we're trying to feed people in terms of the information. There's lots of different names you could use. It's just one of the names, and it's well known, and so that's what we started off with, but that's why we try and get people from like all backgrounds and everything here to these events. So, but yeah.
Provide you some of my opinions on some things here which you may or may not agree in. And one of the lines in here is, please wait to the end for the booing. So don't. I'm here today to talk about profitable permaculture. And I'm sure some of you will have, here, right into it, a different opinion or interpretation of permaculture in general, or more specifically, how the principles apply to mainstream agriculture. I enjoy a good debate, so everyone feel free to contact me later or stop by our farm if you want to argue semantics. So if you want to come by and talk about, if you want to dissect the world and where it's going, feel free to stop by anytime. I mean, we can argue with or without beers or whatever.
With shovels.
You have to be related to fight with me with shovels. That's for liability. For this presentation, I'll be focused on how diversified perennial crops and low input land management have saved my wife's family farm from herbicides, pesticides, chemical fertilizers, while allowing it to stay a profitable business model. So permaculture isn't something that I would think of as how do we make a business out of this. The first thing that I did that got me down the road of agroforestry, permaculture, all that was micro swaling the entire field. This is not really what I did. I did it with a pickup truck where I took the rubber off the tires. I had an old pickup truck and I went up and down. It was early spring, the ground was moist, there was corn stubble, and I just drove up and down the field in a pickup truck on steel rims. And it cut these lines in the field, up and down. And as I was driving, I was throwing corn and sunflower, and I was just throwing the seeds out the window as I'm driving down the field at 40 miles an hour on steel rims. And father-in-law, Ron, so Sour Ron's Righteous Rhubarb is the Sour Ron is my father-in-law. Anyway, so drove up and down the field, creating these micro swales. Wherever the seed fell into the bottom of the swale, it rained heavy, leaf litter and other organic matter blew on top of it, and it all came up in rows. I had corn, beans, and sunflower coming up here, and it all came up in rows. And he was saying, when I'm doing it, he's like, people are asking about you down at church. That this is my father-in-law going down to church and getting heckled by the neighbors saying, what is your crazy son-in-law doing out there in the pickup truck? So you can't see this yet, but there's trees growing in rows because that was the next, not evolution, the next, don't know the word, succession of how things work. Incidentally, it all came up in white clover too. So we didn't plant any of this. We didn't put any seeds other than the initial corn, beans, and sunflower, which were all bin run. They weren't Roundup ready. This is stuff that you just go down to where I buy pig feed. He's got a big, 30,000 bushels, and you pull up there with the pickup truck. He turns the thing on, fills your truck up in 5 seconds, and now you got corn. And you can just throw that in the ground and it will grow as a ground cover or feed for other stuff. Another thing that I learned about doing the corn, beans, and sunflower is that you're encouraging wildlife to not just bring in other seeds, but they're bringing in nutrients. I don't know exactly, I tried to figure this out, how much a flock of pigeons deposits. You're trying to look up like how much poop does a pigeon make, and right, songbirds. Well, a songbird weighs, 3 ounces and a pigeon weighs 9 ounces, you're trying to figure out how many tons of nitrogen are being planted on this, or being distributed on this field just because I planted the right cover crop to draw the wildlife in. When we got this property, I went the other direction. We talked to the farmers, we said, what does it cost? What does it cost from, I gotta run a tractor across that same acre 7-8 times from the start to the finish to get a kernel of corn. how much diesel am I using, how much fertilizer I'm using. It's $300, $400, $500 an acre just to get your corn in. So on 20 acres, well, $500 an acre. I don't have 10 grand to front this project. I'm gonna take my 10 grand and buy Bitcoin or something. That's a joke. Don't buy Bitcoin. Or buy Bitcoin. It's not for me to judge. Social media getting comments that my farming practices must have been inspired by permaculture, holistic, and the regenerative agriculture movements. In truth, it was not. 5 years ago, I didn't know anyone or anything about how all this comes together. That I was just a hillbilly with a dream, you know, and all of it, you know, really the best part of it is all by accident.